Hello and welcome to Boatrek Live, Episode 3. Today I'm going to talk about canon versus non-canon. Alex Kurtzman apparently confirming that Season 2 will sync up with original canon, but then again he said it's impossible for it to do so. Yeah, there's been a lot of confusion about that, so let's just take a look at this article here. And then we're going to look at another article and compare the two. Star Trek Discovery will sync up with canon by the end of Season 2. A lot of things that everyone knows will be touched on. Star Trek's long history has inevitably brought in some inconsistencies, though thankfully Discovery will apparently sync up with canon by the end of Season 2. Continuity issues have plagued the long-running series over the years, and there has been extra pressure on Discovery given that it is set years before the original series. However, executive producer Alex Kurtzman has assured us that the upcoming series will link tightly with what has come before. Okay, give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, it could happen. We do end up syncing with canon by the end of the season, he told IGN. So a lot of the things that everybody knows about these key characters will be touched on. The characters he is referring to include Spock, Kurtzman adding, "What you have to remember is this is not the Spock from TOS. He actually hasn't gotten to the place where he's more sanguine about his logical side. He's really struggling through which, as a result of things that have happened, as a result of the visitation by the Red Angel, as a result of seeing these signals, his logic brain has been totally fried, and all of this logic training has failed him in many ways. And his emotional inner self or inner life has been suppressed in so many ways. So he really doesn't know which way to turn, and that's a big part of what he's struggling through. In many ways, it's the story of how Spock becomes Spock, the Spock we meet in TOS. All right, good enough. Now, let's take a look at this article. Same guys, Digital Spy. Okay, Star Trek boss says it's, quote, impossible for the entire canon to sync up perfectly. And then there's a subtitle, that's the trouble with tribbles. All right. Star Trek has 50 years of intersecting and often contradictory stories that make it very difficult for all of them to correctly fit together in a way that makes fans happy. That's probably not going to change anytime soon. The latest entries in the canon are the original series prequel Star Trek Discovery, as well as a forthcoming series with Jean-Luc Picard, which is set 20 years after The Next Generation. Digital Spy and other media chatted with Star Trek executive producer Alex Kurtzman at New York Comic-Con earlier this month, specifically about the continuity issue, and Kurtzman admitted discrepancies between the various shows and spin-off media is unavoidable. Oh no, what's going on here? Well, let's clarify. Everybody is always trying to maintain continuity, Kurtzman told us, but given the 50-plus years of Trek, it literally becomes impossible because people decide they want to follow a character in a book. Now, he's talking about extended canon. Let's keep that in mind. To follow a character in a book after the show's been canceled, so they'll invent stories. That's true, fair enough. And then 15 years later, a new show will come out on that. A new show will come on that will take that character back, and you can't be consistent with everything. Okay. Our goal is always to try and never negate what has existed in novels and graphic novels, but it is a literal impossibility. So that's totally fair. The fact that the showrunner shouldn't have to worry about extended canon, like all the Discovery extended canon now, not necessarily everything else. You know, that's fine. He's not talking about the television or the movie verse. He's strictly talking about things that could be not necessarily contradicted if it's good. I mean, there's a novel called uh, Desperate Hours about the Shenzhou and Pike and the Enterprise teaming up to fight an ancient alien species. And it kind of sounds like the premise of season 2, or they might have been influenced by that novel by David Mack. Desperate Hours, Star Trek Discovery, Desperate Hours. So if they don't consider that canon, that's fine, I guess. But I mean, come on. I know it's more difficult to. It's bad enough that they have to keep track. Not bad enough. I mean, they should keep track of original series and TNG and all that. All that canon should keep that all in line and solve that by the end. But he's talking about a completely different thing here, and that's fair enough. And he goes on to say, and part of what has kept Trek going for so long is everyone's wonderful imagination to keep writing books and keep making graphic novels and keep making shows. And at a certain point, given the volume of things that are out there, it's just impossible for everything to sync up perfectly. So we give it our best effort. Good enough. So the promise to, by the end of season 2, sync up with TV canon, good. Extended Discovery canon that's already been out there, they might abandon that in lieu of another direction. I mean, they're taking a big left turn this season, so. Now this is L'Rell, the redesigned L'Rell. Let's zoom in on her face here. So this is her from season 1. And she looks pretty different from what we'd expect from that species. Now she's much more smooth looking. I mean, her neck is still, like, it's very xenomorphy, very, very, very alien, and that's fine. This look here, I thought, it's pretty good on its own, as its own design, as its own offshoot. But when they decided to kind of retroactively say that these are the Klingons and they're bald because of extrasensory things on their heads and all this. And then this season they're saying, okay, they have hair now because before they all shaved their heads. I don't care what excuse they come up with, just as long as they're moving in the right direction. And I have a theory that L'Rell is pregnant, so with Ash Tyler's child. And it's going to be like a more human-looking Klingon or something. But see, the thing about that is his transformation is so stupid. Like, I get what they were going for, but his transformation is so dumb. Because they don't use the augment, they don't take advantage of that to turn their species into completely undetectable human beings. You know what I mean? It's like this kind of really rough shot, bone-crushing surgery where it looks very unsanitary when they show flashes of it. And it's like, come on, even a species like the Klingons would have some kind of decorum when performing delicate fucking procedures to completely transform to a species, trans-species operation of some sort, which is so elaborate, which would require a lot more than just changing bones around and replacing organs. I mean, the DNA is in every cell, so how do you account for that? It just makes no sense. But I think this season's going to take such a direction that it kind of forces you to ignore or just forget about season 1. in comparison, if season 2 is good, which it may not be. I mean, the first short trek, if it's any indication, I don't know. But this new one, Calypso. Let's talk about Calypso. Short trek airs November 8th, 2018. And it is about discovery, like 1,000 years in the future. Let's take a look at this article. Yeah, okay. Well, there are 4 Star Trek short mini episodes being released leading up to January 17th premiere of the second season of Star Trek Discovery. The first, Runaway, was released earlier this month. The second, Calypso, arrives in November, and the trailer for it, along with a new promotional image, was just released. Whew. All right. Of the 4 short treks, Calypso stands out as it doesn't focus on one of the characters of Discovery, but instead introduces a new character named Kraft, played by Aldous Hodge, who wakes up on a deserted ship with a computer Al as his only companion. One thing that stands out in the trailer is the title card stating 1,000 years after Discovery, which sets this short trek episode very far into the future. We see an empty USS Discovery that is seemingly long abandoned and dusty, and on board is a new AL interface, which is much more advanced than anything we've seen in the 23rd century starship, leading up to a lot of questions. I don't buy that. I mean, a more advanced AI than what we've seen in the original series is just fine. And that's one of those canon things that, I mean, technology has been updated, and I know some people want to treat the TOS like a period piece, and you must adhere to the technology that they introduced at that time, and that's it. But like, come on, get real. The script was written by Discovery writer Sean Cochran and Pulitzer Prize-winning author Michael Chabon, who was also a writer and executive producer on the new Picard show in development, which is set in the year 2399. Calypso will arrive on CBS All Access on Thursday, November 8th. Let's take a look at the Calypso trailer. That's what I want to look at. I only watched this once, so I just want to see it again here. Oh, what's going on here? I can't see it. Okay, here it is. Coming November 8th. Guy wakes up on the ship. The story continues. The stories continue 1,000 years after Discovery. So it's an old, dusty ship now. Maybe, and I don't think that they're this clever, but maybe it could be linked to the end of season 2. Maybe something happens to the actual ship itself, and everybody somehow manages to evacuate except for this guy, and he's stuck in some kind of stasis for a period of time. And he's talking to this AI, and the AI is like laughing and stuff. Like, hey, you're funny. And like, she got a personality. I guess it's female, isn't it? Sounds female. It's got this personality, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with this. I mean, the writer is certainly a talented writer. I haven't read anything by him. So, I'll give that a chance. But in terms of Discovery and the Klingon redesign, I really still would like them to include the augment virus somehow, because I really think it would be very clever and cool to account for all the different kinds of designs that we've seen throughout the years, and not just say they're completely like this and just keep them one-dimensional. I want them like to be varied and different, so we get glimpses of many different kinds. But I mean, we could still focus on L'Rell and her role as Chancellor, and of course, she's going to be probably like befriended at first by Cole's father from the House of Kor, that white-haired Klingon from the second trailer, or that, and he's going to betray her later on. It's like a false friendship. He's gonna. But I somehow think L'Rell is pregnant. I don't know why. I think they're gonna try to use that as a thing to say, okay, Tyler and L'Rell's baby is more traditional looking from our point of view, not the rebooted Discovery Klingons point of view. And it is a reboot at this point, and they say they're going to match up with canon, but I think eventually they're just going to not overwrite the original series, but continue that timeline concurrent with a Picard series, a Starfleet Academy series, probably set in the Picard, like in the dawn of the 25th century. And of course, Worf, he's recently expressed interest in having his own show, but not necessarily appearing on the Picard series if it's only a cameo. And Marina Sirtis said, they're all just waiting around. They really haven't heard anything. And I don't think they would be allowed to say anything even so. But it looks like Michael Dorn won't be on that series unless they give him some kind of prominent role that could lead into his own series, because fans will go crazy if you did that. Why not have a series where Seven of Nine is the captain and he's the first officer, or switch that around? She's the first officer and he's the captain of the Enterprise E, and that's still around, except it's been refitted, so it looks kind of different, I guess. The future looks bright, and a lot of people say Discovery hasn't done well, that it's failed, and that season 2 is going to be the last. I don't necessarily mind the idea of season 2 being the last if they can do something really creative or drastic, like somehow the Discovery ends up in a time warp thing where it's like goes to 1,000 years in the future, and that's what connects it to the Calypso short trek. Those are high hopes. But I suspected that Burnham may die in season 2, and it has something to do with Spock's actions, and maybe deep down his guilt makes it so that he never talks about her. I never really cared that we find out about the siblings of beloved characters that we never knew about. Like, that's some sort of huge violation of canon. Who cares about that? People bring up Cybok. So, okay, Cybok, you didn't mention him. Who cares? There's a lot of characters in TV shows who have siblings that they never mention. So that's no big deal. So anyway, I think I've ranted enough after reading those articles, and I'm having medium hopes for season 2, and if it syncs up with canon at the end, okay. But I can't follow the jargon of CBS and Alex Kurtzman saying, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. It's okay, it's okay. Like, okay, they're trying so hard to appease people who complain a lot and who are just like, everything's bad and wrong, the designs suck, and they're just very hostile on Twitter and the internet, it's comment sections and stuff. But they all kind of group together, like the haters group in one corner and the lovers in the other, and people like me in the middle who I think the first season's okay. There's a lot of problems. I won't deny that. And a lot of people who have criticism about the show, I will agree with most of them because lots of YouTubers have pointed out pretty much everything wrong with the show. But there are people out there who point out everything that's great with the show. And one of the best things about it is Doug Jones, of course. So that'll be it for me. Thanks for listening.